Was that
Oh,
the go-ahead, Kathy?
yes, that's the go ahead.
Great. So we'll start it off with me asking if it was a go-ahead. That's awesome. Quality TV here. Okay, folks, the Drupalistas Study Group is in the house. We are live tonight with Robert Jacobi, good friend of mine for 8 years, even though he hasn't counted them all yet, apparently. He is a new thing for him recently, the president of Open Source Matters, which is the nonprofit foundation which, and he can clarify this if I get it wrong, runs the Joomla project. He can explain that to us because I know we're curious. We have our Drupal mindset of what the DA is, what the Drupal Association does. So we're asking Robert to come join us today to show us a little bit of the back end of Joomla, how it handles content, but more importantly, to make some comparisons of, how do they run their project, what's in their project, what's the future roadmap for the project, how do we equate things that we know we love about ours and what do you know about his. So grateful to have Robert Jacobi with us today, also founder of Arc Technology Group, which, as my understanding, is the largest American Joomla shop that I know of. And he's accomplished great things. I think the Joomla success in America is largely attributed to Arc, and he can clarify that if I got that wrong. Robert, take it away.
Thank you very much, Doug. That was a great introduction. Yes, I am the newly elected president of Open Source Matters. Those elections happened earlier this spring in March, and many people have questions about Open Source Matters versus Joomla. So Open Source Matters is sort of the financial and legal arm of the rest of the entire Joomla project. We handle collecting revenue to be able to spend it on events, on flying people out for sort of scholarships, and just the day-to-day, making sure servers run for Joomla.org, developer.joomla.org, the community.joomla.org. So it's just sort of the business and making sure things work. It's not necessarily all of the community, but it's the people who spend time with the bureaucracy of making sure the community can run. And the rest of the community is, including Open Source Matters, is 100% volunteer. We've been around since 2005. Joomla was officially founded in 2005. This is our 12th year. And we like open source, and we like working with other teams and projects and communities. And I hope that we can have a great conversation about the nature of Drupal and Joomla and how we work together, who our audiences are, who our developers are, and where we cross streams, for lack of a better word, and where we differ. A lot of this will probably be just a Q&A, trying to keep it very simple, and I have my bulletproof vest on, bulletproof shorts on, and ready for the slings and arrows of the highly literate, highly technical, highly intelligent Drupal community coming at us Joomla folk who are just making sites and somehow about 3 times, a minimum 2, if not 3 times larger than the Drupal community. Go figure.
Sweet. And this is not Robert's first time going to Red Alert and raising shields to maximum. We've had banters at the various CMS expos, Drupal versus, Drupal CMS showdowns of Drupal versus Joomla, and I think we've had WordPress in there a couple of times. So Robert is a veteran in the armed forces of supporting his project.
Correct,
Robert,
we had Dries and Matt at a CMS Expo. Probably the first and only time the leaders of Joomla, Drupal, and WordPress were all in the same room at one time without security.
Hold on,
Did we get video?
Is there a video of that? I don't know. It seems that there would be. Now there was Andrew. It was Andrew Eddy, right? Andrew Eddy and Dries. Was Matt there from Automatic? Really?
Matt was there from Automatic. The reason Dries showed up is because Matt showed up, and Dries was sort of goaded into that because we had Joomla and WordPress already confirmed, and he was sort of twisted into being there as well.
I honestly don't remember Matt being there. I've had dinner with Matt in Seattle, in Redmond, Washington, with Microsoft brought us all out there for some whining dining thing. And I remember him from that, but I don't remember him being at the CMS Expo. I'll have to confirm that. My memory does not support that.
Matt is a phenomenal open source representative. He was actually at the second Joomla World Conference in Boston.
Really?
Back in the day. He was a keynote speaker at Joomla.
Whoa. And a couple years ago at the Moscone Center, at the big WordCon or whatever they call their thing, He made the statement that in the 12 months prior, WordPress had of course skyrocketed in adoption again, and he made the statement, "We grew by a Drupal," meaning our entire market share they added again to their already voluminous market share. So I know Matt is a witty guy when he says things like that. And it was true, so say it.
And it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So Robert, if you could, I don't know if you can share your screen yet or not, but if you could take us into the back end briefly. Didn't want to spend a lot of time in tutorials because we can probably catch videos on that somewhere. But are you able to screen share yet?
Absolutely. So just before I jump into the screen share, a couple easy things for all Drupalers, Drupalars, Drupalistas, Drupal swordsmiths. If you ever want to play with Joomla, I know you might, just to you sharpen your tools. You can always go to demo.joomla.org or joomla.com. Those are all free, really quick setups that give you an install. So demo.joomla.org will give you a full-fledged Joomla install. You can do whatever you want to it. So install whatever you want, customize however you want. Joomla.com, sort of in the WordPress.com vein, you get a limited Joomla.com Joomla experience. So you get your Joomla site up right away, but you're slightly limited as to what you can do with extensions and templates and coding. But it'll at least get you a feel for the back end, which I'm going to drop you into shortly. So let's see if this share screen button works. I clicked it.
Hey, Robert, doesn't Pantheon offer a Joomla build now?
No.
Yeah, okay. I thought I saw Joomla pop up somewhere kind of unexpected the other day.
If you really want to go for unexpected, one of the quickest and easiest Joomla installs is on Microsoft Azure. So if you go to azure.com or microsoft.com/web/Joomla or microsoftazure.com and do a sort of one of those freebie introductory installs, you can do frankly all the CMSs, but Joomla has one up there that's pretty much a one-click, and they'll set you up with a MySQL database there, or which they have right now in preview on Microsoft Azure, or via ClearDB. Ooh, someone's dinging.
Is Azure a big thing for the Joomla community?
It's not, but they actually have a phenomenal one-click sort of install of Joomla.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing around in that cloud environment, you want to be able to scale. Microsoft does a great job. I'll talk about all of our great hosts. So demo.joomla.org is run by Cloud Access. Joomla.org and all of its properties, so our developer, our community, our volunteers.joomla.org is run by Rocken, that's ROCHEN. Joomla.com is run by SiteGround. So we have a wide community of hosts that support Joomla in general.
Sweet.
Let me drop you into a little local share. See, since never having used Zoom, I'm going to just cross my fingers and hope this.
I see your screen, my great site.
Okay, so this is actually pretty straightforward. This is a 3.6.5 version. I haven't updated locally to the latest version, which is 3.7. But this is the sort of the front end default. If you're happy with their template, there it goes. Do you see my second tab? I just want to make sure it's there.
Yes.
I can't see my bar.
You can drag the Zoom bar out of the way.
Oh, can I? Okay.
There it is.
Oh, there it goes. Oh, okay. I moved.
Haven't changed much in the 10 years since I've looked at the login screen.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, all you need is to add.
Yeah.
Since this is actually one of the things that's missing from this is that we have built-in two-factor authentication. I don't run it locally because I don't need it locally. Because it's running off of MAMP, but you can have two-factor authentication via Google and a couple of other tools. And I can actually log in and show that to you.
So Joomla 3.6.5 has 2FA built in.
Correct. And actually, Joomla has had 2FA built in since 3.0.
That's impressive.
So you can actually, before I start driving totally crazy around here, this is the default control panel. You see that right now I need to update to 3.7.0. You know, I'm gonna wait on that because I'm doing a show and tell here.
And it's good to point out that we don't have a single-click update for core in Drupal, and we never will. We've decided that it's with our staging and deployment that it would just never be a tool that would work.
That's an interesting discussion. We can get to that because not only do we have a single-click update for the core, we also have single-click update for extension.
So we have that, but we don't have it for core.
So let me drop into users here. I can show you the two-factor authentication.
I wonder if we've ever discussed having 2FA and core for Drupal. I mean, core is getting big enough as it is, but I've never even heard anyone suggest putting 2FA. It seems like it'd be a good thing to have, maybe.
I think 2FA is great, and it's actually pretty easy to set up as long as I can remember where I put it. But it's not in the users. One of the perils of being a Joomla executive is that you don't actually have time to play with Joomla a lot of the time. Let's see. It's just
well, we're enjoying watching you go through the process regardless.
I'm sure. Since it's being recorded, that's even better. Did I mention I have final editorial say on this?
They've never been edited before. It's just in the raw.
That's what I figured. Okay, so I'm not going to futz around trying to find that at the moment because by default, it's actually one of the questions when you install Joomla. I'm not going to fuss with that. I turned it off at some point. Now I don't remember where it is. So
For sure.
I'll leave it at that. So again, back to the control panel. This is the first screen everyone sees. With extensions or custom coding, you can add extra panels to this to have whatever other information you want. By default, this control panel. This is actually a pretty, in fact, almost a completely raw version of Joomla. So I don't know what would be the next step for what you'd be looking for, but let's pretend we're an end user. You know, one of the things we want to do is create articles. Go to content, articles, create a new article. You know, call it Doug's hot dog van. Yes, with 2
Yay. Love it. That's my middle name, actually, hot dog. That's amazing. Douglas H. Van. That is exactly.
So we have an article here. Pretty straightforward. You have your WYSIWYG editor, Joomla. There are a number of Joomla extensions that provide enhanced WYSIWYG editors. This is default, TinyMCE. You can also just do a pure HTML editor. You can select categories. Nothing's been set up yet. You can select whether it's published or not. And you have an alias, which we use to generate title and the link. And there are a number of other options. Setting an intro image, full article image, all sorts of options for how that article should be displayed going forward, titles, tags, intro text, author, dates, yada, 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 on and on. Publishing, so if you wanted to start publishing this article tomorrow or next week, when it would actually unpublish, so if you had a finished publishing date. Permissions, anything from a guest, a public user, a guest, manager, registered. We have a very robust ACL for that built in. Let's just go back to the content, save and close that. There's your article.
Your permissions are hierarchical.
Yes, they are.
How long has that been true?
Since 3.0. So a lot of the major changes in Joomla happened in 3.0. So a lot of that includes permissions, enhanced language support, the two-factor authentication. So those are a lot of huge changes that happened in 3.0.
Can you explain what hierarchical roles that they inherit their children, or no, the children inherit the parents? Which way does that go? Do you know?
Children inherit the parents.
Okay, that would make sense. Yeah.
So you can have a
Yeah.
you can have a role that's underneath. Let's go to access levels. So we have public, guest, registered, and special. So you can create a sub-public user group that if people are logged in, that they can only see content that that's in the Doug category, for example.
Yeah. So you can have category-based permissions out of
Yes,
the box?
absolutely.
Ooh. We call ours taxonomy access control, TAC. So
Sure.
taxonomy is our categories, but it's not in core.
Oh, it's okay. So yes, this is taxonomy, and so prior to 3.0, what we had was a very limited, sort of, for lack of a better word, goofy taxonomy, which only had sections and categories.
Yeah, I hated that.
So that was updated in 2.5, and then sort of finalized in 3.0, where now it's just unlimited categories that can be nested in any way, shape, or form.
Nice. You should probably know that I bailed at 1.5 RC2 in late 07. So I've got an archaic memory of what little I have memory of Joomla.
It's very, very different.
Oh yeah, 10 years.
10 years will do that to you.
Yeah. So I gotta tell you, I like this hierarchical roles going on there. I do a lot of training, and every so often someone asks me, about roles inheriting another role, and I'm like, no, this is just flat. You can make another role and give them both roles, give them this one and that one, and nothing gets subtracted. It's just additive. And I can see that people are every now and again somebody's expecting something that's similar to what you have there, but ours is just simply flat.
Correct. And this is all out of the box. Nothing's there's only one extension that's been added to this. It's actually something we're just playing with internally. It has nothing to do with regular Joomla, but this is for the most part out of the box Joomla. This is what you get raw.
And so you said that depending on how Doug's hot dog article, how it was tagged or how it was categorized, that could affect who could see it.
Exactly.
Where's the user interface for that? I probably
So
missed it when you. Yeah.
We haven't gone there yet, so let's actually give Doug's article an actual link so we can get to it.
Now, you had a great deal of control at the article level, but to add a menu item for the article, you go to a separate interface.
Correct. And actually 3.7, which I don't have here, unfortunately, allows you to actually do that more seamlessly direct from the article. But since most people, 3.7 was just released a week and a half ago, so we're going to go with 3.6.5 version just for more awareness sake. So in this case, we're going to set up Doug's link. We're going to select an article. You can choose, so we have actually a Hello World component in here. The rest are all default: configuration manager, contacts, newsfeed, search. So you can set up any of these kind of menu types as a link. We're going to set up a very simple single article link. And then we'll select the articles that are available, which right now is only Doug's. Select what menu it's in. Right now we only have one main menu. We can set it as a sub menu, or we can just set it in the root. We'll just keep it in the root. Published or unpublished is the default page. Access permissions. You can manage access permissions either at the menu level or the article level. So when you manage them at the menu level, you'll see the menu item or not. And in the case of Doug's article, if its permissions were for registered users, you'd see the menu link but not be able to get to the article. You can also set all sorts of language functionality. Right now, by default, English UK is the default language for Joomla. So we'll save and close this. Let's jump over to our page here. There we go. Now we have Doug's link right here.
I see.
And
so in the right column was the option for menu, and initially the left side had something about menu type. What is a menu type?
I'm sorry, back in the administrator?
Yeah, what's a menu type?
So menu types, let's go jumping back to Doug's link. I hope everyone likes Doug on this phone call because otherwise they're going to hear his name a lot.
Never enough.
So in this case, there are different types of menus that will sort of drive the functionality. So you can choose a search form, or a news feed, or a contact list. So these are default components and extensions within Joomla. as well as articles. So in this case, we chose a single article with a direct link to that single article. You could also choose a category, which will show all like a blog.
Gotcha.
So category list will show all the categories. Category blog will list all the article introductions. So we could actually change Doug's link to be a category blog and show all, we don't have any categories set up, anything that's uncategorized. Let's save that. And then when we refresh on the homepage, we'll still have Doug's link here. Now we just, if we had more articles, you would actually see that there are blog articles, but since you're the only real article set up.
So that would be a link to a listing page of articles with that category.
Correct.
So wow, that's one way to create listing pages, which is one of the questions I raised in our email exchanges. That's a very sensible way of doing it. I don't object at all, but it certainly is kind of jarring for us to do that, to think of a listing page generated from the menu, angle. It makes sense, but it's just not the way we do it.
It's a lot of it is just sort of a different workflow and mindset. So if we set this as the not Doug category, let's save that. Let's go back to our articles. And let's set the category for not Doug to the not Doug category, or Doug's van to the not Doug category. That. Then we can go back to the menu item. And Doug's link will only pull up uncategorized. Okay, so that's still the same. So if we go back to the home page here, this should give us no content. There you go.
Right. Very nice. Wow. So that's your taxonomy and essentially your list builder inside the menu as a menu type. Now those menu types seem to be almost content types on one level. Does that line get blurred a little bit?
It gets blurred all the time. I mean, one of the great pros and one of the great cons is you could do a lot of things or the same thing a lot of different ways. A lot of people look differently.
We'll take you on for redundancy, but go ahead.
There's a lot of redundancy, based on what you're comfortable with, what the taxonomies you're used to dealing with, how your end users want to actually interact with the content on the front or back end. So there's a lot of ways to skin that cat. We also have, tags. We also have third-party extensions, which completely blow up whatever content model might be the default in Joomla.
Fascinating. Any questions from the group, lest I just take the whole thing over?
I have a question. It sounds like there was some, I used Joomla about as long ago as Doug did, and it sounds like some of the changes are very dramatic. How does that affect your existing user base? Did everybody have to do great site changes or updates? And if so, did you offer some sort of a update path or anything like that?
That's a great question. So we had a very difficult 1.5 to 2.5 migration process. There wasn't anything seamless. At this point, 1.5 has been end of life for almost 10 years, not an issue. 2.5 to 3.0, there was a built-in migration toolkit, and everything going forward, while it may not be backwards compatible at the major releases, will always have a migration. So right now, 3.0 to 3.1 to 3. And we're not 3.6.5 right now on the 3.6 branch, and 3.7. Those are all backwards compatible. So we follow semantic versioning in that the only time you can make a backwards compatible break is in a major version. So when Joomla 4.0 comes out, there will be backwards compatibility issues, especially with third-party extensions, but we are building migration tools for that.
Okay.
Is legacy mode a thing of the past?
It is such a thing of the past that it's not even worth talking about. There's no such thing as legacy mode.
Yay!
Yeah. So right now you're either 3 compatible or you're not.
Very good.
And if you're 3 compatible, anything you build is from our production department deemed fully compatible through any 3.x Joomla install. And
Very
for
nice.
the 4.x, there'll be migration. So our semantic versioning is the major versions are break backwards compatibility. The minor versions may include new features, and then we have the security patches, which are the third dot. So 3.6.5 means that 3 is the major new changes. .6 means there were 6 updates with new features, and the .5 for 3.6.5 means that there were 5 security patches, bug fixes.
So 3.7 is current. There'll be a 3.71, 3.72 perhaps. When do you break into 4?
So our current expectation for let's say a beta of 4.0 will be this fall.
That's pretty aggressive, I think.
It is, but it'll be a beta. We're not, trying to go crazy. Again, based on semantic versioning, we know that 4.0 will break backwards compatibility, and that's why it has that major number change. So is it a dramatic break from 3? It's doing some new things, but it's not going to be super dramatic in that it upsets all end users who all of a sudden don't know how to use Joomla. It's the fact that it does break some backwards compatibility. For example, we support a lot of versions of PHP because of the 3.x that we don't want to support in 4.0.
Oh.
So making a de facto statement that 4.0, which I'm not making, but let's use for example, that 4.0 only supports PHP 7.x would break backwards compatibility with a lot of extensions.
I'll bet.
Or it has to be a 4.0 release.
So in Drupal, every new version gobbles up a lot of contrib modules that get inherited into core. Is that your trend as well?
We tread very lightly on that. I think there are in the depth and breadth of Joomla, we've only, and gobbled up is even a strong word, but we've incorporated some code from other extensions just a few times. What happens is that a third-party extension developer will have its own unique extension and contribute some of that code back into the project. But we've never taken a whole approach to inheriting a third-party extension. In fact, what we're trying to do is remove as many extensions as we can from core to make them on-the-fly installable versus part of the entire package. Yeah,
we had a movement like that called small core that completely failed. I never had a preference, so I didn't care. But there's more JavaScript in Drupal 8 than there was PHP in Drupal 5. That was a tweet that went out years ago as they were building Drupal 8. So Drupal 8 got big. So somebody else in the room reminded me more, but menu block, vertical tabs, made their way into views in core, CCK from 5 to 6 or 6 to 7. If I say we've gobbled up a lot of contrib modules, I should think of more than 4. Does anybody else have any more?
From 6 to 7 or from 7 to 8?
No, from 5 to 8, all the way up to 8, between 5 and 8.
Oh my gosh, so many.
Yeah, I can think of 4.
Oh.
I wonder if I just exaggerated.
No, well,
CCK,
like from
CCK
7
views,
to,
vertical, yeah.
From 7 to 8, gosh, stuff like views and.
Oh, migrate. Yeah, of course, even more in there. Fair enough. Also, Robert. Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't CK editor get sucked in?
Was it, I don't, not the module itself. I don't think. Maybe it did. It might have been a complete rewrite.
From 6 to 7, the functionality of CK. Oh, CK editor. I'm thinking of CCK. That's way back.
So the library itself was brought in from the third party, but the CK editor module itself, I don't think was really ported into core. I think really they kind of rewrote pieces of core just to go ahead and use it. So I don't know if they were able to use much code from, clearly they went from, procedural to PHP. Also, Robert, I wanted to mention, we've taken some things out of core and then they've gone back in and then they've come back out again. Is that something that you've experienced in your versions?
No, anything that we've taken out has stayed out. So right now on install, you can add a couple of, I think there's only actually one previous core extension called site links. So
yeah,
that was taken out. You can install it during an install, but it's not part of core. And we're looking to even push more out of core. There will be core extensions. So the different sites, maybe I should clarify this. We're not abandoning any of the extensions that we may have had previously in core. So if we're looking at this components menu, for example, contacts. Contacts has been a core extension since 2005. What will probably happen is that contacts is taken out of the Joomla core, but an installable Joomla core extension after the fact. So if you really contacts, you can bolt it on, and it's supported by the Joomla core community as opposed to a third-party extension. So we are maintaining and managing specific Joomla core extensions that if people want to bolt on to their Joomla site, they can have. But we are trying to make Joomla a leaner and meaner.
Well, you explained that very well. I didn't understand the concept of core extensions, but I do now because we don't have such a thing. Everything is communal. That communicates well. The blog module got removed from Drupal. It's been in Drupal, maybe even from the very beginning, but the blog module was taken out between 7 and 8 because really you can create your own content types anytime you please. So why have that thing in there? And few people ever turn it on. So just one less chunk of code to deal with. But of course, it doesn't become a core extension. It just goes back to being a contrib module running free in the wild, which is something we can do because every single module lives at Drupal.org. Drupal.org. We don't have any third parties, unless of course there's some service that comes with it.
Exactly, and it's also one less attack vector if you're not updating and managing it appropriately. So there's security concerns, deployment concerns, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we're trying to minimize, just like D.O.
Very nice. I have to ask then, is there a hesitancy to put someone's code in if today they're selling their module, and then if in 4.2 their module gets put into core, or 4.0 their module gets put into core, then clearly they're not selling that module anymore. Is that an impediment? So
the typical Joomla ecosystem is that all extensions are GPL2. So you're really never selling the module per se. You're selling the subscription to maintenance and support and all of that.
That's a good clarification.
And we don't. Again, it's very important to distinguish between core versus third parties. We don't put third-party extensions into core. You can install it after you've created your site and set it up and found something that you really want. There's some very, very popular ones out there and are sort of defaults in anyone's Joomla install, but they're not part of the Joomla core. Our goal is to provide an infrastructure for third-party extensions as well as making the administrative and workflow process easy for newbies.
And for clarification, what role do you or OSM play in deciding what goes into 4.0?
So the existing Joomla structure has a set of 10, soon to be 11 departments. Board seats. And of those, 6 right now, we're looking to fulfill the community role right now. But 6 of those are departments that produce something for Joomla. So there's a production department, there's an events department, a marketing department, or operations, yada, yada, yada. And those departments manage certain aspects of the entire Joomla project. For the actual code, the production department runs that.
So a small body of 5 or 12 people?
So there is a single coordinator. There are, if I'm correct, about 10 teams underneath that. I would say there are approximately 40 people that are hardcore contributors to the Joomla project, just on the production side.
Whoa. So you know that Drupal 7 to 8 was a lot of changes enacted. We went from PHP templates to Twig templates, which many, that was a very celebrated move. People who were a little hesitant to learn something new were a little, less enthusiastic than others. But nonetheless, apparently it was well received by and large. Is that a kind of a big change you would ever see happen in Joomla? Your whole templating system changed, or has it changed?
It has not drastically changed. We've changed some of sort of the internal template. Now my technical knowledge is having a blurb, as I like to call it. Some of the call outs to incorporate whatever production code, so grabbing the actual content or component code. Some of the semantics have changed in the templates, but nothing super drastic that's upset the entire apple cart. A Joomla template is very lightweight, and in fact we can drive into one right here. So if we go into templates,
you can edit templates from the back end.
Correct. You can have many templates. So right now we call it site or administrator. So we have a site and administrator template. And right now we can see that the Protostar template is the default. If I wanted to change this to be the Bees default template.
So you call those two separate templates?
Because they very much are. So we have Doug's link, and now we switch to a totally different template.
Gotcha. We would call those themes in our world. And
correct.
The themes would have, there were templates inside the theme, a front page template, the article template, even templates for the admin pages.
So yes, so you can have styles. In this case, this is Bees and Protostar, and then within each one of them, you can have multiple other properties.
So I never did any front end with Joomla back in 1.5 and below. So the PHP template engine, of course, is tpl.php files where we print out the variables that Drupal hands in to put in scope to generate the appropriate content for the appropriate users on the page. What is your templating system in Joomla? I've never used it.
I'm showing it right here. So the core of the template is the index.php file. So if you
That's your controller. I wouldn't consider that a template typically.
We're going to call this the view, because at this point, here the highlighted text is querying what modules are at what positions. If they are there, display them.
Oh my word, it does. But the index.php file literally renders content.
Yes, it's the view.
Yeah, okay.
Within a template, the index.php is the view.
And that's early on in the code.
And this is the top of the code. You're literally looking at the entire index.php selected here. So it's right away.
So JExec is your entire bootstrap.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Wow. Well, hold on though, because you changed templates, as you call them, in that UI, but yet this index.php is the one rendering the content, so that the template's can't really override that, can it?
Each template has its own index.php.
Oh my word. Okay.
That's how it works. So
this is not your root level index.php.
No, this is the template index.php.
Okay, so Joomla's already bootstrapped and done all of its goodness before we get to this file.
Correct, and that file is about 3 lines long.
Okay, this just in, Joomla has multiple index.php files. Did not know that.
So yeah, so any template will have its own. So in this case, here we're pulling up our CSS, JavaScript. Are we going left to right, right to left? We support that natively for languages right out of the box. Bootstrap.
So are these PHP files an attack vector for hackers?
They can be, but for the most part, since they're calling secondary files in CSS and JavaScript, it's not that has not been an issue on the security side. I mean, it's more the traditional stuff, making sure that there aren't attack vectors for SQL injections and those kind of things.
sanitizing all the user-generated input.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
So,
one of the reasons that Drupal went from PHP templates to Twig was for the mere fact that we're no longer processing, parsing PHP, and nothing gets really executed at that point. We're just, we're doing markup changes.
correct. So our PHP, we're calling, Joomla functions. So
Yeah.
these
Are there no conditionals in this file? Yeah, there's an F. Okay.
oh yeah.
But there's no queries, of course. No direct queries to the database from here.
Oh, absolutely not. We have a completely separated database query engine, and which
Sweet.
allows us to actually run Joomla off of MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, MS SQL, and there are drivers for that behind the scenes.
Sweet. It was a Drupal shop in Michigan, commerce guys who were contracted by Microsoft to write the PHP drivers, PHP 5 or 6? There wasn't a 6. PHP 5 drivers for MS SQL. Little trivia.
And are those drivers still valid?
I don't know. I don't know who's maintaining those. I have no idea. I ended my statement where my knowledge ended.
That's fair. So again, pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy.
What's this JDoc markup? JDoc include?
JDoc is the sort of. Let me make sure I have the correct technical phrase for it. I'm not going to have it. It's it's a Joomla call out for certain functionality. So in the case of JDoc include, you're calling the JDoc class, and then you're submitting some functionality to it.
So a debug module comes in there possibly and generates some content if the conditions are correct and warranted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, actually, in this case, the JDoc include type modules it's going to request the debug module. You can also override that in the control panel that is turned off.
Fascinating.
It's going to try to include it if it's allowed, and that's handled in the back end, so you don't have to worry about managing that if-then statement in the front end.
Very nice. So what I'm gathering is there is no official templating language that exists in other places. Joomla has a homegrown templating language that runs off of index.php.
Correct, and the JDocs, yeah. So JDocument include, and there's a whole bunch of other functionality under JDoc.
And if you wanted a unique template file for all articles, every time an article is rendered, use this template file. How would you do that? That may be too technical for an executive like yourself.
Oh, Doug, if that was so easy for you to say. So let's go here to our styles, and let's go to our B3 default.
I should have invited Bill Stafford on this call. He could have answered that.
Oh, I'm going to answer that, and I don't know who you're talking about. Let's go to menu assignment. So here's your template. You're in B3 default. You can actually choose any specific templates that this applies to. So right now, the B3 default is for the entire website. But if we want to set Protostar as Doug's link, let's go there, and we'll see that Doug's link now has the old migrate site.
Wow.
Or if we go back to the home page, we'll see it's the Protostar.
Wow. That takes at least 2 contrib modules I can think of in D7 to do that.
Is that only on a per page basis, or can it be a whole?
Yeah, all articles.
Content, all articles.
So
Is that all articles or just that one article?
Actually, the way that Joomla works with templates is on a menu basis. So if you had submenus under Doug's link, all those menus could be applied.
They would inherit that selection of things.
Exactly. It would inherit the selection.
So if I create another document, like say Doug's other link.
Let's do it. Let's not mess around.
Do it.
That's why I like Robert. He does not mess around. And don't tell me you forgot who Bill Stafford is.
I'm sorry, I still don't know who you're talking about.
We'll talk later.
I know who Bill is. He's a wonderful. He really is.
He is.
This is Doug's bratwurst link.
Doug's brought
I can't spell
First.
bratwurst.
link. Jawohl. Anyone speak German on this call?
Ich habe dreimal
Where's Tony when we need him?
It's okay. We have Doug's other link, and let's do it the lazy way. Let's add a new menu item. It'll be a direct link to a single article.
Wow, that's menu types. Still remembering with that.
Doug's other link, and then we're gonna set the menu. So the menu root will be Doug's link. Doug's other.
Ooh, was that an autocorrect?
That's just that's the Safari. That's actually not Joomla.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Doug's other link.
I guess link squared, perhaps.
Link square. Let's
The link square.
So we're at the home page here. Let's see what we got. So we got Doug's link. We got submenus. Doug's other link. And let's jump in there.
And it inherited the template choice of its parent.
It actually inherited the home page template because we have only assigned it. We've assigned the original Doug's link as an exclusive to that one template.
Oh, I see.
So we assigned Protostar only to Doug's link, but not Doug's link. Now, of course, we can, toggle selections. And now we can have them all, anything with Doug to have the boring template. Let's refresh. There we go, Doug's other link.
So we were expecting that child link to inherit the theme selector of the parent, but it did not initially. Is that correct?
It did not initially, and just because we kind of did it backwards. But
if we create a second child to Doug's link now, it would inherit that.
I'm going to guess yes, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, good enough for me. So context. Go ahead.
My other question would be if I set Doug's first link to a specific template manually, and then each subsequent article did not automatically inherit that template, and I have to go in and assign that template. Would I have to do that every time I added another article under that parent link, or is there any way that could be like all single articles will start using the such and such template?
There is, but I'm just not going to get into it because I don't remember exactly how that normally works out default.
Yeah, fair enough.
What normally happens is that a parent link will forces children to inherit what it's come from. So if we start creating category blogs and category lists off Doug's link, those will inherit the template properties of that. So you can have two fully different templates running that your site. So you can have a business version of the site template and then an end user site template. And when you start building those links out, that'll work. In fact, you can get sort of crazy with your links insofar as that you could actually repoint to the same content, and depending on the workflow or the user experience and workflow of your user, that they could come to the same piece of content from two different directions and have two different templates.
Ooh.
Is that a feature or a bug?
Yeah.
Well, technically it's a feature. I mean, it's a cool thing. Google doesn't like that stuff because it doesn't like links to multiple or to the same piece of content from multiple directions. But that's actually a completely valid use case. So if I have an About Us, and for whatever reason I want to maintain my About Us as an end user comes in thinking about buying a car versus an end user who's selling a car and they have different looks and feels, why should I jump from the seller of a car template to the buyer of a car template if I'm going to the same content?
You know, that would be really good, really useful for is A/B testing.
And you can, and you know, that's a very good point. And exactly for A/B testing, so you can actually have two templates that change the design and some of the end user workflow to see how that's working.
Well, I've done A/B testing, but I've never thought about doing that in the context of changing the theme.
And actually, Doug, you could do that with Drupal if you use that
Context.
theme key.
Theme key and context, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. So what I'm gathering here is, whereas Drupal is all information architecture all the time, and we think about the content types as being these strong circles we draw around different kinds of content, it seems like Joomla still, to this day, as I remember it from the days of old, is very menu-driven, very navigation-driven. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's pretty fair. I think a lot of the Joomla base is very integrator, not necessarily very super coder heavy. We're not talking about 100% of our community being, PHP, object-oriented programmers who understand the whole MVC spectrum, or MVC spectrum, but they know how to put together a good site. And whether that's straight out of core or embedding and installing some of the extensions and tweaking some of the templates and CSS and JavaScript and HTML, we can make some pretty amazing sites. So it's not necessarily about the underlying code for most people. We can build a Joomla site as powerful as any Drupal site. You can build a Drupal site as powerful as any Joomla site. The beauty, especially from our perspective, is that Joomla and Drupal are much more similar than Joomla and WordPress, Drupal and WordPress are any day of the week. WordPress is a very, very confined environment. And with Drupal going to D.8 and having an object-oriented MVC architecture, that really puts us sort of in the same field at this point, that we can build a lot of stuff out.
Fascinating. I since you've kind of put it out there, I don't know if I can truly accept that anything that the one can do, the other can do without code. I mean, of course, with code, Joomla and Drupal couldn't compete with, Adobe Experience Manager or some such.
Agreed.
But the simple example I always use is, cataloging your CD collection. For those of you who, these round things, we used to listen to music on them. But so, you can have a content, you can out of core, Drupal core, create a content type for album and for artist and for song, start creating nodes, and they have fields that relate to other things. You choose a song, you can assign it to an album, and assign an album to an artist. And there's a greatest hits, or there's a compilation, whatever, so it has multiple artists in one album. So we can create these interrelations, and then we render things. We can render, okay, I'm on this album, show me the songs on the side, and then show me the artist per song on the other side. Then I can put members of the band into the artist, whatever. So these relational, information architecture concepts out of the box, then I can render them any way that I need to with views. And I just don't see that kind of project going to Joomla and being so easy to build. Am I wrong?
So when I grew up, we called them phonographs.
I had 8-track. I had 8-tracks too for a while.
Or wax cylinders. So yes, technically out of the box, we don't have a CCK the way Drupal does. What we do have is a community of extension developers that have developed different CCKs. So we have Zoo, we have K2, we have Flexi Content, we have Sobi Pro, we have Sayblood. So there are different open source and free extensions that you can create a CCK. I assume that's what we're talking about fundamentally.
Beyond it. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, but not really, because all we're talking about is being able to categorize and create views and data types and content that's going to be displayed. And so in the case of Joomla, you have a number of third-party extensions that do that with Joomla. So you can create exactly what you're talking about. Is it out of the box? No. Is it free and open source and available? Yes, if you need it.
I see. And so we're kind of dancing around the topic of unified content. What did we call this the other day when we talked about it?
Well, unified content.
Unified content model.
Yeah, Joomla does not have a UCM. We've played around with it. We've thought about it, and we focus on other things at the moment.
I think you'd honk off a lot of developers, a lot of third-party developers, who are like, "Hey, that's not how I model my content. Why are you going to model your content like that?"
Exactly. So we've been focusing on different aspects of Joomla, for the last 2 years, and UCM, while we did play with the idea, never got the traction that we needed from our community to develop out, and it's not our ecosystem. So
Drupal 8 made a lot of tough choices that honked a lot of people off. We had issues with this stuff, so we made a lot of hard choices in D8, and some I love, some I don't. I wonder if at some point Joomla's going to have to come to a hard decision of we have got to have a unified content model so we can have rich information architectures that don't require a convoluted assemblance of interacting projects.
That will happen through JSON, web services, and hypermedia. That will be the ultimate UCM of Joomla. It's not going to be what database are you working on, what's your table structure, and how you're managing that. As great as Acquia.8 has.
What? You mean
Drupal 8? Drupal 8. I'm sorry. It's been a long night. It's like nighttime.
Freudian.
Oh, you button pusher, you.
It's a big, giant one right on the table.
Next to the elephant.
But it's an important point in the fact that we don't compete with other open source CMSs. We're doing what we do because we have a community that needs functionality and feature set that we can provide, and they're pushing back to the community. And I'm really not trying to push a button here, but it's very, very, very different than WordPress or Drupal. There is no automatic. There is no Acquia. Joomla project is 100% community driven. It's driven by the needs of the community, and it really has no giant financial corporate arm that says you really need to do this. And maybe I'm exaggerating some of the political circumstances, but we've really found ourselves that we're very different in that regard to both the other major CMSs. And I think that's critical. So when new ideas come in, we're willing to engage with them, and we're willing to throw out other ideas that, UCM, great idea. We have many discussions about it, but we have a community that's different and not beholden to something that makes UCM the most important feature and set of functionality that can be out there.
Sounds a little bit similar to Drutopia, Leslie, with your community-driven builds and features.
Yes, it does.
And Robert, real quick, because we're running out of time, and I'm tempted to schedule a part 2 because I have a lot of more questions.
But I never shut up.
I would gladly have a part 2. You guys have been, a fantastic, audience and great questions.
Good.
You keep mentioning your community of users. Who do you see as your the primary community of your users, your target? Well, it wouldn't be a target market, so to speak, but the people who are more likely to use Joomla, or the types of website users, shops, organizations, that type of thing. For instance, with Drupal 8, it's definitely heading towards more enterprise, more ambitious sites, I should say.
That's the buzzword, ambitious sites.
Ambitious sites. So for WordPress, I would say that the general community of WordPress users are smaller businesses or individual mom and pop type sort of thing. WordPress has a gigantic corner on the
lower end.
Yeah, excuse me. The affiliate market site, affiliate market industry really, really pushes WordPress a lot. And I would venture to say that a large percentage of the WordPress sites are from affiliate sites. So who do you see as your primary users or your primary community of Joomla site owners?
Anyone who is not WordPress.
That's a broad statement.
That's
Yeah.
the world.
Hey, there's a reason Joomla runs 3.5% of the internet. It's not an accident. It's not WordPress. And you know,
Like are there smaller shops? There's like small schools, organizations, like Sally's Beauty Shop, as opposed to Amazon type, you know.
yeah, but Amazon doesn't use Drupal either.
Well, I'm not saying as compared to Drupal. I'm just saying if who would be more likely to go and get Joomla? What type of business or what type of community member?
You're saying anything.
Joomla can run the depth and breadth of all websites, as can Drupal. Let's not mistake what I'm saying. Drupal and Joomla are both very powerful, deep, and wide open source content management systems. I think they are immensely magical for making great websites. Now the question is, we have WordPress, who runs 50% of open source content management systems, 25% of the entire internet. It's a great entry level commodity platform for getting content onto the web. You can do that through rolling your own via WordPress.org or jumping on via WordPress.com. So that's great. It's easy. What do you want to do when you need to broaden your features and functionality?
I think that's why I would like to have you back for another meeting, because my questions now shift towards, so we have a general understanding of the content, how to create the content, but then on a different level, I'm curious as to modules, who contributes, how do they build? What if I need something done that this module almost does, or whatever you call your modules, the components or extensions, I don't know. And then also my next question would be dynamic content. In Drupal, we have views. What is the equivalent of something like that in Joomla? I know with WordPress, if I wanted to make a special content type that's not a page and not a post, I need to go to the back end and do some coding to do that. What do you do if I have a special content type that needs specific fields only, that type of thing? So if you want to come back, I'd love to have you.
I think I'll save those questions for next month.
Yay.
Okay, that'd be great.
Exciting. That went very well, Robert. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks everybody for all the good questions and for tolerating my barrage of hogging the mic. So I'm glad we'll have one more chance. Any parting words from the president of Open Source Matters?
Joomla is the second most popular open source content management system. We have our developer conference in Krakow, first weekend of June, jandbeyond.org. And we love all open source projects, but we'd love to, get toe to toe with everyone else. So that's a lot of fun, and especially with Doug Mann.
Oh, always fun. Yes.
I have
Excellent.
to say, I am really interested in taking another look at Joomla. So thank you very much.
Uh-oh.
Take a look. Again, joomla.org, demo.joomla.org, or joomla.com.
Excellent. Thanks again, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night,
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
All right.